Imagine for a second, right, that you pick up a massive, incredibly heavy history book about a fascinating part of the world.
Okay.
But when you open it, you realize the first several thousand pages have been glued completely shut.
Oh, wow. Yeah, that's frustrating.
Right. You are forced to just start reading from the final few chapters. And someone basically taps the page and tells you, this is where the story begins.
Just completely ignoring everything that came before.
Exactly.
Mhm.
And for a long time, that is exactly how the history of the Philippines has been treated.
Yeah, it really has.
There's this widespread, just this lingering assumption that the story only really kicks off when European ships arrive on the horizon.
Right, specifically Ferdinand Magellan's fleet.
Yes. But we found this fascinating video from the YouTube channel Mythos Amit Raj. It's titled The Untold History of the Philippines Before Magellan.
And it is incredible.
It really takes a massive crowbar to that glued shut book. So for everyone listening, we are going to uncover the hidden, highly sophisticated history of a civilization that was thriving literally 70,000 years before a European sail was ever spotted from those islands.
It's just a mind-blowing timeline.
It is. We are talking ancient DNA mysteries,
Hmm.
massive global trade networks, and forgotten kingdoms draped in gold.
Okay, let's unpack this because I am so incredibly excited to share a piece of history that rarely makes it into standard textbooks.
It really is a profound reframing of human history,
Right.
because to understand the complex, glittering kingdoms that the Spanish eventually encountered, we cannot start in the 1500s.
Right. We have to go further back.
Way, way back to the very foundation. We basically have to establish who walked these islands first.
Okay.
And the reason we have to start there is because their genetic legacy holds a world-shattering secret about human evolution itself.
Wait, world-shattering. When you say way back, like what kind of timeline are we actually looking at here? We are rewinding the clock back 60,000 to 70,000 years ago.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah. We are talking about what scientists refer to as the first wave of modern humans who migrated out of Africa.
Right. The very earliest migrations.
Exactly. And these first arrivals into the Philippine archipelago, they were the ancestors of the modern Negrito peoples who still live there today.
So they're still there.
Yes. This includes communities like the Ada of Luzon,
Okay.
and the Agorda of the Sierra Madre, the Akita of the Visayas, and the Batak of Palawan.
Wait, just to pause on that for a second.
Sure.
These communities living today, right now, trace their lineage directly back to that very first wave of modern humanity entering the region.
They do. It's a direct, unbroken line.
Yeah.
But what's fascinating here is what geneticists found hiding inside their DNA.
Hiding in the DNA. What did they find?
Scientists have discovered that Negrito populations in the Philippines, and particularly the Aida people, they carry more Denisovan DNA than almost any other population on Earth.
Okay, I am trying to visualize this, and I'm a little confused, honestly.
Sure, it's complex.
Because the only thing I know about Denisovans is that they were like these ancient human cousins.
Right.
And scientists only knew they existed because they found a tiny fragment of a finger bone in a freezing cave in Siberia.
The Denisova cave, yeah.
So how on earth does the DNA from a Siberian cave end up thriving in a tropical island population near the equator?
It is a great question, and it completely threw a wrench in how we map early human movement.
I bet.
The prevailing theory now is that Denisovans weren't just, confined to freezing climates in the north.
Well, they moved around too?
Exactly. They likely had a massive range spanning way down through Asia. You have to remember, during the Pleistocene epoch, sea levels were significantly lower.
Because of the Ice Age, right?
Right, which exposed these huge land bridges and created much shorter water crossings. So as the first wave of modern humans moved into Southeast Asia and the Philippines, they encountered Denisovan populations that were already living in the region.
Wow. So they met them there.
They did. They interbred, and that ancient encounter didn't just fade away.
That is wild. It's like discovering that a ghost species of humanity wasn't completely lost to history at all.
Yeah.
Like they didn't just vanish. They left this permanent, living genetic fingerprint inside a living, breathing population today.
That is a perfect way to put it. It is literally a ghost genetic signature. And it proves that the human story is far more intertwined and complex than a simple straight line of one species neatly replacing another.
So, okay, we know from the DNA that they were there.
Yeah.
But do we have, like, physical evidence of how these early humans were actually living?
We do, and for that, we looked at Taban Cave on the island of Palawan.
Tiban Cave.
Okay, an American anthropologist named Robert Fox was excavating there, and he pulled out a fragment of a human skull that completely shattered the established timeline for human settlement in the region.
Really? How do you even put a date on a skull fragment that old? Because carbon dating has limits, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. So they use something called uranium series dating.
Okay, what is that?
Essentially, as water drips inside a limestone cave, it forms these calcite crusts over the bones.
Oh, like stalagmites and stuff.
Exactly. This dating method looks at how radioactive uranium isotopes decay into thorium within that calcite over a long period of time.
That's incredibly clever.
It is. It gives us a remarkably precise timestamp. And the timestamp for this particular skull fragment was approximately 47,000 years old.
Wow. 47,000 years.
Nearly double the early estimates for the region.
So while early humans were just, beginning to establish themselves in parts of Europe, people were already building lives in the Philippines.
Absolutely.
But were they just like surviving day to day, or were they building a real culture?
Oh, the archaeological evidence shows deep cognitive planning. It wasn't just survival.
Really?
The sources highlight that thousands of stone tools were found in Taban Cave. Thousands. Alongside evidence of controlled fire. But the most telling detail, I think, is the animal bones.
What about the bones?
They didn't just show signs of being smashed or broken open. They had distinct cut marks from highly skilled butchering techniques.
Huh. Why do cut marks specifically matter so much in this context?
Because it shatters the whole myth of the primitive wanderer.
Oh, I see.
Precise cut marks imply an understanding of animal anatomy. It means someone developed a specific, efficient technique for processing food, and more importantly, they taught that technique to the next generation sitting around that cave fire.
It's passing down knowledge.
Exactly. That is the very definition of early culture and generational knowledge.
Okay, so we have this incredibly deep ancient foundation, the first wave.
Right.
But the source material indicates that the history of the archipelago gets this massive transformative shock to the system roughly 4,000 to 5,000 years ago.
It does.
What happens then?
This is where the demographic landscape shifts again. We are talking about the Austronesian migration.
Okay, where do they come from?
They originated from what is now modern-day Taiwan. They began moving southward into the Philippines, and they brought a profoundly different way of life with them.
Like what?
They brought domesticated crops, domesticated animals, and a proto-language.
A proto-language.
Yeah, essentially the root linguistic code that would eventually evolve into hundreds of distinct languages all across the Pacific.
And they were traveling over open ocean to do this. I mean, for everyone listening, just picture yourself in an outrigger canoe thousands of years ago, pushing off ashore and heading out into the massive, unpredictable Pacific Ocean.
It's terrifying to even think about.
It takes an unimaginable level of engineering and bravery.
It wasn't just bravery, though. It was sophisticated science.
Probably.
Yeah, they navigated without compasses or metal instruments. They read the star maps. They understood complex ocean swells, the migration patterns of birds, and even the subtle changes in cloud formations that indicated distant land.
That is just brilliant.
It was one of the greatest maritime expansions in human history.
But here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Usually when we read ancient history, the story goes, a new technologically advanced group arrives, and they either wipe out or completely displace the local population.
The classic conquest narrative.
Right. Is that what happened to the descendants of the first wave?
Not at all. And that is a crucial nuance that we really need to correct.
Oh, really?
Yeah, the Austronesians did not launch some campaign of replacement against the Negrito peoples.
Okay, so what happens when a localized culture meets this massive wave of ocean-faring migrants?
Well, instead of a hard overwrite, what actually played out over millennia was a highly complex process of coexistence, trade, and genetic intermingling.
So they blended together.
They did. This blending formed the dominant layer of lowland Filipino ancestry that we see today. So we're talking about groups like the Tagalog, the Bisaya, the Ilocano, and the Kapampangan.
So they integrate, they build these communities. But if they possess this absolute mastery of ocean navigation, they didn't just stop at the Philippines, did they?
Far from it. The Philippines served as this massive launch pad.
Okay.
The Austronesians arrived, they established themselves, and then they just kept pushing outward into the unknown.
Where do they go?
Everywhere. They went west into Indonesia and Malaysia. They went east across the vast Pacific to Polynesia,
Wow.
south down to New Zealand, and incredibly all the way across the Indian Ocean to Madagascar, right off the coast of Africa.
Wait, Madagascar? That is practically on the other side of the world.
Exactly. It forces us to completely rethink the identity of the entire region.
Yeah, it really does.
Because of this massive migration, modern Filipinos share a fundamental genetic thread with the Maori of New Zealand,
Oh, wow.
with native Hawaiians, and with the Malagasy people of Madagascar.
So the Philippines wasn't just some isolated destination at the edge of the map. It was essentially the grand central station of ancient maritime travel.
That's a great way to describe it.
But if you have a region functioning as this massive hub, with people constantly moving through, sharing crops, and trading ideas, who is directing the traffic? Right.
Because you can't have that much global movement without some kind of centralized authority popping up, right?
You hit the nail right on the head. Where ships pass, trade follows. And where trade follows, complex administrative societies naturally grow.
Okay.
By the year 900 AD, the Philippine archipelago had evolved into a wealthy, globally connected hub of international diplomacy.
900 AD.
Yeah, just look at the map. You have China and Japan to the north. You have the immense Indian Ocean trade routes to the west, and the powerful maritime empires of Java and Sumatra to the south.
So they were literally in the middle of everything.
Exactly. Any ship moving between those powerful worlds had to pass through or near the Philippines.
And they were dealing with some serious players. The source mentions several specific kingdoms from this era, doesn't it?
Yes, it does. For example, there was the Kingdom of Mai,
Okay.
located on what is now the island of Mindoro. In 900 AD, the Song dynasty of China, which was arguably the most powerful empire on Earth at the time they recorded a formal trading mission from Mai. So the Chinese actually wrote about them.
Yes. The Chinese imperial documents clearly described it as a prosperous, highly organized trading state.
That's incredible.
Then you have the Kingdom of Tondo, which was a dominant polity at the mouth of the Pasig River. They controlled vast trade networks.
And what about the Rajanite of Butuan? The video specifically mentions a ruler named Raja Killing around the year 1001 AD.
Yes, Raja Killing. The Rajanite of Butuan was so wealthy and so highly connected that Raja Killing actually traveled personally to the Chinese imperial court.
He went there himself.
He did. And he wasn't treated as, like, a subordinate from some primitive island. He was received with full diplomatic honors. It established a formal peer-to-peer relationship between his kingdom and the Chinese empire.
Okay, but how do we know these were highly structured societies internally?
What do you mean?
I mean, diplomatic missions are one thing, but do we have proof that they had the daily administration,
Yeah.
Laws, literacy, contracts, the stuff that really defines a complex civilization?
We actually do. And the proof is this amazing artifact called the Laguna copperplate inscription.
I have actually never heard of that. What exactly is it?
It's fascinating. It was discovered in 1989 by a man who was just dredging sand in the province of Laguna.
Just found in the sand.
Yeah, it's a single, relatively small plate of copper, but it's perfectly preserved, and it dates exactly to 900 AD.
Okay.
But the text inscribed on it is what changes absolutely everything.
What does it say?
Well, the language itself is a blend. It blends Old Malay, Old Javanese, and Sanskrit. And it's all written in a script related to ancient Javanese.
Why those three languages specifically? That seems like a random mix.
Because it perfectly captures the cosmopolitan nature of their society.
Oh, I see.
Sanskrit was the language of prestige and religion across South Asia. Old Malay was the common language of trade.
Got it.
So blending them together implies a society that is deeply plugged into a vast cross-cultural network. It would be like finding an ancient document today that casually mixes English, French, and Latin legal terms.
So what does this all mean? Like, what does the actual text on the plate say?
The contents are surprisingly mundane, which is honestly what makes it so brilliant.
Mundane how?
It is a formal decree pardoning a man and his family from a specific heavy debt.
A debt.
Yes, and the debt is measured in exact weights of gold. It names specific officials, specific locations, including Tondo, which we mentioned earlier, and specific astronomical dates.
Wait, it's an ancient legal receipt for a debt settlement.
That is exactly what it is.
That is amazing.
Yeah.
It is physical proof that pre-colonial Filipinos had complex legal systems to settle financial disputes.
Yes.
They had a literate administrative class and a deep understanding of standard weights and measures. I mean, nothing says highly organized civilization quite like keeping formal receipts.
Exactly. That administrative footprint is undeniable. And the copper plate highlights something else vital. It mentions exact weights of gold.
Right.
If we want to really understand their power, we have to talk about the physical evidence of their staggering wealth.
Because nothing shatters the myth of a primitive archipelago faster than digging up massive caches of gold.
Precisely. In 1981, a farmer operating heavy machinery in Surigao del Norte stumbled upon something buried deep in the soil.
What did he find?
It was a massive collection of thousands of gold artifacts.
Thousands.
Intricate jewelry, ceremonial bowls, heavy gold ornaments. This collection is known as the Surigao treasure, and it dates roughly from the 9th to the 12th centuries.
And the source mentions the Golden Tara of Agusan too, right?
Yes, the Golden Tara is phenomenal. It is a nearly 2-kilogram solid gold figure of a deity.
Wait, I need to stop you right there. 2 kilograms of solid gold.
2 kilograms?
The sheer economic surplus required for a society to just dedicate 2 kilos of solid gold just to cast a single religious artifact is staggering.
It is. And the design of the Golden Tara shows clear Hindu-Buddhist artistic influence.
Which goes back to the trade networks.
Exactly, further proving those deep intellectual and spiritual connections to South and Southeast Asia. But it is crucial to understand the mechanism of gold in ancient Philippine society.
What do you mean by mechanism?
Well, it wasn't just shiny decoration. Gold was highly political.
How so?
In these kingdoms, controlling gold meant controlling alliances. It was a clear, established marker of status and authority that signaled economic stability to foreign traders.
So it was a flex.
Essentially, yes. When the Spanish colonizers eventually arrived, their own historical accounts described Filipino leaders. The datas covered head to toe in gold.
Head to toe.
Gold earrings, gold armlets, gold chains around their necks, gold woven into their clothing. The Spanish chroniclers were frankly in disbelief at the sheer volume of wealth displayed casually during meetings.
It sounds like a civilization operating at the absolute peak of its power and influence.
It really was.
But that brings us to a massive glaring question.
Which is?
If they had global diplomatic connections, complex legal literacy, and unimaginable wealth, where did it all go?
And that brings us to the profound historical disruption of 1565.
Right.
This marks the formal beginning of the Spanish colonial era, and is so important to clarify that when the Spanish arrived, they did not find an empty, uncivilized landscape waiting to be discovered.
They found the exact opposite.
They found established Rajanites, leaders with deep authority, communities bound by laws, and complex spiritual traditions.
So how does a culture that robust get erased so thoroughly that centuries later, people assume the history started with the arrival of those very ships?
It happens through a gradual systemic dismantling. If we connect this to the bigger picture, history is almost always written by the colonizers.
Right.
They overwrite the old narrative to justify their control. Writing systems like the indigenous Baybayin script were pushed aside as colonial authorities imposed their own administrative language.
Making the old laws and histories unreadable to the next generation.
Exactly. And the profound oral and spiritual traditions, which were led largely by female shamans known as the Babalan and the Catalonan, they were actively suppressed as new religious structures were enforced.
So they took away the language, they took away the spiritual leaders, and they broke down the political structures.
Yeah, they're 5 Ps.
They basically dismantled the existing kingdoms and rebuilt them entirely under Spanish colonial frameworks. And over generations, the names of the ancient kings, the knowledge of the oceanic navigation, the stories of the massive gold caches that just faded from the collective memory.
Yeah.
The first few thousand pages of the book were glued shut.
They were. But, and this is perhaps the most powerful takeaway from the source material, that the erasure wasn't entirely successful.
Because the earth remembers.
Exactly.
The colonial powers could suppress the spoken language, and they could dismantle the local politics. But they couldn't reach the gold buried deep underground in Surigao.
No, they couldn't.
It waited there for centuries for modern archaeologists and farmers to uncover it.
And they couldn't reach the external administrative footprints either.
Oh, the trade records.
Yes. The colonizers in the Philippines couldn't burn the Chinese imperial records of the Song dynasty. They couldn't erase the Arabic merchant logs or the Javanese royal histories.
Wow.
Those foreign archives perfectly preserve the receipts of Philippine greatness.
And now, piece by piece, geneticists analyzing Denisovan DNA, linguists studying copper plates, and historians translating Song dynasty records are dissolving the glue on those pages.
It is a profound reclamation of identity. It demonstrates that the true foundation of a society can outlast centuries of intense disruption, provided you know exactly where to look for the evidence.
Right, exactly. And that's why this matters so much to you, listening right now. It is a masterclass in how history is constructed, how easily it can be obscured.
Absolutely.
But building on this idea of cultural erasure that the source brought up, I want to leave you with a final thought to mull over long after you finish listening today. Think about that heavy history book glued shut. If a society this deeply advanced a civilization with vast global trade networks, complex legal literacy, and massive wealth can have its entire identity and history nearly erased in just a few centuries of colonial rule.
It's a scary thought.
It really is.
Yeah.
What parts of our own modern, highly advanced, globally connected culture are fragile enough to completely vanish if a new dominant force arrived tomorrow?